Stop him! Thief!" David Chen ran through the crowded Manila market. His heart pounded in his chest. Sweat poured down his face. Behind him, 3 angry men chased after him. They thought he had stolen from their fruit stand. But David was just trying to take a rotten banana from the trash. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. "Please, I wasn't stealing," David shouted. But his American accent made people stare. A rich foreigner stealing trash? His foot caught on a broken stone. He crashed to the ground hard. The men surrounded him, raising their fists. "Wait!" A woman's voice cut through the noise. "Stop!" The crowd turned. A small Filipino woman pushed through the people. She was thin and wore old clothes, but she walked like a queen. She looked down at David on the ground. Her face showed no emotion. "I know this man," she said quietly. The market went silent. Everyone waited. "5 years ago," she continued, "this man refused to help my brother. My brother worked for him. When my niece got sick and needed medicine, my brother begged Mr. Chen for help, just an advance on his salary, nothing free." David's face went white. He remembered now. He remembered everything. The woman's eyes were dark and cold. Mr. Chen said no. He said, "I don't give handouts to lazy workers." The crowd murmured angrily. The 3 men moved closer to David. "My niece died 3 days later," the woman said. "She was only 6 years old." David wanted to disappear. He wanted to die right there. "So now," the woman said, looking at the 3 men, "let me tell you what we're going to do with Mr. David Chen." Everyone leaned forward to hear. The woman took a deep breath. Then she said words that shocked everyone, including David. "We're going to take him home." 3 months before that day in the market, David Chen lived in a different world. He owned 3 factories in the Philippines. He had a big house in California. His company made sports shoes that sold all over the world. David loved to say, "I built this empire with my own 2 hands. Nobody gave me anything." But that wasn't completely true. David built his empire by paying workers very little money. He ignored safety rules to save costs. When workers got hurt, he fired them. When they asked for help, he said no. "Business is business," he would say. "If you don't like it, leave." One of those workers was Roberto Santos. Roberto worked in David's factory for 3 years. He never complained. He worked hard every single day. Then Roberto's daughter Maria got very sick. She needed medicine that cost $200. Roberto only made $5 a day. Roberto went to David's office. He got on his knees. "Mr. Chen, please, sir," Roberto begged. "I'm not asking for free money. Just advance me 1 month's salary. I'll work extra hours. I'll do anything." David didn't even look up from his computer. "Company policy. No salary advances. If I do it for you, everyone will ask." "But sir, my daughter will die without medicine." "Then maybe you should have saved money instead of wasting it," David replied coldly. "Meeting over. Close the door when you leave." Roberto left with tears in his eyes. He tried everything. He borrowed from neighbors. He sold everything he owned, but he couldn't get enough money in time. Little Maria died. Roberto's sister Rosa held little Maria's body and cried. She swore she would never forget what David Chen had done. But karma doesn't forget either. 2 years later, David's business partner, Marcus, stole everything. Marcus moved all the company money to secret bank accounts. He sold the factories. He disappeared. David woke up one morning to find his bank accounts empty. The police came to his hotel. They had many questions. "I didn't do anything," David shouted. "Marcus stole from me too." But the evidence pointed to David. Someone had used his name and signature on all the bad documents. Marcus had planned it perfectly. The police took David's passport. They froze all his money while they investigated. David couldn't leave the Philippines. He couldn't access a single dollar.
David called everyone he knew, his lawyer, his accountant, his friends back in America. Nobody answered. In 1 week, David went from millionaire to homeless. The hotel threw him out. He had no money for food, no money for a place to sleep. David learned what it felt like to be powerless. He learned what it felt like to be invisible. He spent his first night on the street behind a restaurant. The owner found him and chased him away with a stick. "Get out! You're bad for business!" the owner yelled. David walked all night. His expensive shoes gave him blisters. His suit got dirty. He was so hungry his stomach hurt. By day 3, David stopped feeling like a person. He felt like trash that people stepped over. That's when he tried to take the rotten banana from the garbage. And that's when Rosa Santos found him. Rosa's house was very small. The roof was made of rusty metal sheets. The walls were thin wood. The whole house was smaller than David's old bathroom. Rosa's husband Miguel stood in the doorway with his arms crossed. "Rosa, why did you bring him here?" His voice was angry but quiet. Their 3 children watched from behind him. Anna was 12. Marco was 9. Little Joe was only 5. "I don't know," Rosa said, honestly. She looked tired. "I saw him on the ground, and I just couldn't leave him there." "This is the man who killed Maria," Miguel said louder. "Your brother Roberto cries every single day because of this man." David sat on the floor in the corner. He made himself as small as possible. He wished he could disappear. "I know who he is," Rosa said. "Do you think I forgot? Do you think I don't see Maria's face every time I close my eyes?" Miguel's anger melted. He pulled Rosa into a hug. "Then why?" he whispered. Rosa was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice shook. "Because if we become like him, then he wins. If we have the power to help and we say no, we become the same as the man who let Maria die." Miguel pulled back and looked at his wife's face. Tears ran down her cheeks. "Jesus taught us to love our enemies. I never understood that teaching until now. It's so hard, Miguel. It hurts to be kind to him." "Mama, is that man bad?" little Joe asked. Rosa looked at David. He looked back at her with empty eyes. "He made very bad choices," Rosa said carefully. "But maybe people can change." David's throat felt tight. Nobody had shown him kindness in 3 months, and now the sister of the man he had destroyed was giving him a chance. "I'm sorry," David whispered. It was the first time he had said those words in years. "I'm so sorry." David stayed with the Santos family. They gave him a mat to sleep on and a blanket. The first night, David couldn't sleep. The roof leaked when it rained. Rats ran across the floor. Mosquitoes bit him all night. In the morning, Rosa gave him a small cup of rice porridge. "This is breakfast?" David asked without thinking. "For all of us," Rosa said quietly. David looked at the pot. It was barely enough for one person, but Rosa divided it into 6 equal portions. David watched little Joe eat his tiny portion in 4 small bites. The boy was still hungry, could see it in his eyes. David pushed his bowl toward Joe. "I'm not hungry," David lied. Joe's eyes lit up, but Rosa stopped him. "Mr. Chen needs to eat too," she said firmly. "In this house we share. Everyone eats, even if it's very little." David understood. This wasn't about food. It was about dignity. He took his bowl back and ate slowly. It was the best meal he had ever tasted. Days turned into weeks. David learned what life really like for poor people. He learned that Miguel worked 12 hours a day carrying heavy boxes at the port. He earned $8 a day. Some days there was no work at all. He learned that Anna couldn't go to high school because the uniform cost $30. The family couldn't afford it. He learned that Rosa sewed clothes at night for rich people. She earned 50 cents for each dress. Her fingers bled from the needle pricks. He learned that when little Joe got a fever, Rosa gave him cold water and prayer because the clinic charged $5 that they didn't have. One day, Miguel came home with a bandage on his hand. "What happened?" Rosa asked, worried. "A box fell on my hand at work. It's nothing." but David saw that the cut was deep. It needed stitches. "You should go to the hospital," David said. Miguel laughed bitterly. "With what money? I already lost half a day's pay because of this injury. If I spend money on a doctor, we don't eat tomorrow." David felt something break inside his chest. Back when he owned the factories, 3 workers had gotten hurt because David didn't buy safety equipment. He had fired all 3 of them. "It's cheaper to replace workers than to pay for safety," David had told Marcus. Now he understood. Those workers had families. They had children who needed to eat. They had sick parents and medical bills. David had treated them like machines, like things that could be thrown away. That night, David couldn't stop crying. Roberto came to visit 1 month after David arrived. Roberto stood in the doorway and stared at David. His face was like stone. "I told you you were here," Roberto said. "I didn't